Growing up in East Tennessee, I gained a deep connection to the woods. I grew up going hiking with my dad, and our favorite place is on the Appalachian Trail. While volunteering with an AT maintenance crew, he made an incredible discovery.
Really?
Hi, Dad. Can you tell me about when you found these chestnut trees?
Well, I work on the Appalachian Trail, and there's a section I was working on that the trail was in really bad shape. And we were putting water bars and smoothing the trail, and it was yeah, and we were there's this little tree that I sat down to kind of have lunch, and it was kind of prickled me a little bit in the back of the neck, and I looked around and I said, well, I have this Seek app on my phone. And maybe you can tell me what type of tree it is because I'm curious about what it is. It looks interesting. And the Sikh told me it was an American chestnut. And I go, wow, I don't believe this. And there's one. And there's another one. It's kind of, wow, where did all this come from? I can't believe it.
He rushed home to tell me of his findings, and this summer, we took a hike to see this Appalachian rarity, the American chestnut.
So I told Lily this story. And so when the summer came, she said, you got to take me out there. So we started out on the AT and we walked out there, and I pointed out all the trees along the way. Here's one, I found one, another one. And then I showed her the ones that were 4 inches in diameter. I mean, we're talking trees this big. And I took my walking stick out there, and it's 6 foot long. And I held it up. So, the tree was more than 12 feet tall. And I'm going, wow. And there's two or three like this. I just couldn't believe they're that big.
These massive trees once dominated the eastern landscape, spreading from Maine to Georgia. The wood was historically used for building materials because of its resistance to rot. Its nuts were used by settlers and Native Americans alike for food, flour, and feed for livestock. When this keystone species was hit by the chestnut blight, a fungus originating from imported Japanese chestnuts, it destroyed local livelihoods. Early efforts to save the chestnut ultimately failed, and they nearly went extinct. That is why my dad's sighting was so exciting.
How was it possible for American chestnuts to be growing when the blight was so devastating?
The small trees we found were sprouted from the roots of blight-ridden trees. They survived because American chestnuts only get hit by the blight when they sexually mature.
Luckily, a project at ESF has successfully genetically altered the American chestnut to be blight-resistant into maturity. I met with Andrew Newhouse at Lafayette Field Station to talk about the project.
Part of the project right now is to work on the federal regulatory process. So I'm working with 3 different federal agencies to hopefully get permission to plant the transgenic trees we've created out to use them for environmental restoration. But the agency will be reviewing those comments and then doing some of their own research and eventually making a decision that will hopefully let us plant trees for restoration.
Amazing. Despite the tragedy of these trees, there is definite hope on the horizon.